how you can identify San Pedro cactus and tell the difference between PC and other cultivars. We're going to take an up-close look at some different types of San Pedro cactus, some different cultivars, some trichocereus varieties, and we're going to get an up-close look at PC, hear about some myths of PC, how to identify it, and why people grow it or why people don't want to grow it. Compare it to some Trichocereus Peruvianus and some other cool things. What's up? My name's Dave. We're here at my house, and I've got a cactus farm with thousands of cacti, and we're going to talk about PC. We'll kick it off in comparison to some Trichocereus Bridgesii and some scops and some other neat things. So one of the easy ways to tell the difference between PC cactus and other cacti would be the strength of its spines. So right here up at the tip, we're touching and feeling the spines on a PC cactus. Now, PC is a type of Trichocereus, and PC stands for predominant cultivar. And the reason it is a predominant cultivar is because it's so easy to propagate. It roots really well, and for me, I can grow it in this totally woody, organic mixture that most of my cactus I wouldn't. So like I've got this Bridgesii in a lot more pumice and sand and well-draining material. And the PC is just such a growth hog. It'll just eat that stuff up, and I water it really regularly. I can't believe how dry these are. So these cuttings I've calloused and now I've rooted them into these pots, and they've probably only been rooting for about 2 months, and they're all sitting happy. They got their roots, they're pushing out growth tips, they're super happy. And this one in front of us is a little bit older, and we're talking about its spines and comparing them to other cacti. So one way to tell if it's PC is how strong these spines are and how they're not going to come off at all. And if we compared those to something like a Trichocereus Bridgesii, these spines are totally fragile at the tip, and they would just come off super easily. Even all the way down to here, these spines would just come off super easy. And for some cacti, they would regrow their spines, but for the Trichocereus Bridgesii, they do not. They like to grow bald. So say a leaf or an animal or something brushed up against these, a bird tried to land on them in the nature, these would just brush off and this cacti would just grow bald. Whereas the PC, this beast with all of its strength and might, these spines do not come off. And so one of the reasons that it may be more predominantly cultivated is because imagine you accidentally hit this cactus or brushed up against it. This spine would break off into your skin and you would be stabbed going, oh my God, I've got the freaking cactus in my hand. Whereas the PC, you may get poked, but you're not going to get stuck with a needle under your skin. Now, one of the other things with PC is it is a strong growth that doesn't regularly get any issues or problems. Whereas something like Trichocereus Bridgesii can get spots. It can get fungal spots, issues, maybe a bit more sunburn problems. And the PC, in all of its might and strength, just pushes through with no damage. We can see some of the older growth. Now these were on there when I put the cuttings in. So this one might have got scratched a little bit, but it is just scarred up white and is totally healthy. So another telltale sign of PC, we're going to take a peek over here at these flower buds. We can see these flower buds on the cacti are these furry spots, and they're totally white. There's white hairy, we'll rip one off of here. And so gray or white hairs on these flower buds is really going to tell them apart from, say, a Trichocereus Pachanoi or something like that, is going to have gray or black hairs. A lot of Trichocereus Bridgesii will have white hairs, but I feel like those are going to be a bit easier for you to identify just because of the amount of spines and length on those spines. Same with the Trichocereus Peruvianus. Look at the length on these spines. Now this is my cacti nursery and I sell most of these online. So I use a lot of these as grafting rootstocks. And I just pulled this one over here to show us and give us a good example. But we can see cool coloration on the tips of these spines. We got some gold, some black, a little bit of red. Whereas with the spines on the San Pedro PC, they're predominantly going to be just yellow, like a real plain yellow. And they're just gonna fade out to that silverish white. You're not gonna see a lot of black spines on those. Those are gonna be pretty standard in their coloration. Now, these are fresh, healthy, and I water them a lot and take care of them. So we do see yellow, beautiful spines. And we'll take a peek at some older growth, and those might have white and silver spines. Now the scop or the scopulicola is gonna have basically no spines. And in front of us here is a seed grown one. So it does have some small spines. If we listen, you can hear a little bit of spines on there, but it's for the most part pretty smooth. And over here we have an example of a Pachanoi that has got some spines, but it doesn't have the ladder profile. So on PC, we can see at the edge of the rib here that each one has a ridge, and it's almost like a sawtooth. So that's one easy way to tell the difference between PC and other cacti, is we can see this cacti here is pretty smooth, relatively smooth, and it definitely does not have this sawtooth pattern. Of course, there are other cultivars that have this sawtooth pattern, but when everything adds up together, sometimes it's easy to finalize your equation. So a lot of people ask, is PC spicy? It can do the trick, but it's not super spicy. So a lot of people say that it does not have any alkaloids and it is just not a sacred cacti. The truth of the matter is, it does, and it always will. And that's how it got its name, San Pedro cactus, is just by being the coolest cactus ever. But you're gonna find this in the United States of America at most nurseries. That would be the predominant cultivar and the most common type of Trichocereus that you would find. So other types of Trichocereus that would be a bit more rare and you probably wouldn't see them is a Trichocereus tachiarensis. And then over here we've got a reverted long form, and we can see all the spots on it and how much hardier the PC is and how it makes such a good graft stock. So we're going to look at how we've used the PC to cut small chunks of cacti and stick them on top, and how those small chunks of cacti have healed and then push out their own growth. And so we're using all of the energy from this PC to push out things like this Bruce's dragon. So we've got PC as our rootstock, and I'll show you it's the same really organic woody material. And that really depends on where you live. And like, I don't get much rain here. So if I was just getting soaked with rain, I might be planting in something different, but I'm not. I have to hand water. So these Bruce's dragon are growing awesome, just pushing out all kinds of pups, and I'm constantly cutting pieces off of them, and that's because of the health of the PC. And we've got a crested Trichocereus Bridgesii monstrose. So that's the short form, like this, has put out this crested growth, which is crazy. And what I'm doing is cutting off these pups. So if a pup like this comes out, I'll cut it off so that it'll put all of its energy to this battleship. This is a cultivar called Battleship. Really a cool, different, interesting, unique one. putting out a little bit of regular growth, some monstrose growth, some crests. Fun to watch grow. Behind us here, we've got some Sarah Blue, and that's a Trichocereus macrogonus. So this is much more blue with way longer spines. The spines can stay black. They often go to a gold, but we can see these newer spines have kind of a gold and a black to them. They can easily release all the way down to here. These spines are still pulling out quite easily. Whereas with the PC, you're just not gonna see that. Here we've got LotusLand, super melty. Has a little bit more issues or problems. Some cacti are easier to grow than others. And we can see tons of basil pups pushing out of these PC. Just healthy and happy. So feel free to drop any comments, guys, if you have any questions, anything that you want answered. I am more than happy to answer every single comment that comes along. We'll get a quick comparison of coloration here. The color of PC is often described as green. And we can see this is super green here, but don't let color always mislead you. You can see this is a little bit powdery blue. But this is PC. It does have a little bit of powder on there, glossious look to it, and they can get a little bit of V striping up the top here and have these seagulls or these V notches above each areolae. So you know, a lot of people will say PC do not have notches. They do not have any grooves. They don't have anything above the spine. We can see on the tip that is somewhat true until we get it further down and we go, no, I see indentations. So indentation isn't always a sign or not having indentation isn't always a sign that something isn't PC. And so we can see the flower bud here starting, just that small white fuzz. And we can see one right over here starting. And we can see how white and how hairy that is. And a different cultivar would not be that white and hairy. So let's take a look at a couple other cultivars and drop in some questions. Do the whole like and subscribe if you're digging this. I've got a bunch of other cool videos on aloe vera and how to make fertilizers. So this is a blue Jules giant, and it's super blue, but it has a lot of PC characteristics. But we can just tell by the girth and how fat it is and the coloration blue and how powdery it is that it is most definitely not PC. Same with this essidon times sina. This one is super spicy. I love to collect cacti for all different reasons. These ones here are a little bit furry. This one here is variegated. And I do love collecting trichocereus. So this is a variegated trichocereus. But some cacti I collect because of the spines and the coloration of the spines. Like look at this one here. It's got red, gold, orange, black, silver, gold, all on the same cacti. And this one is grafted onto PC. And here's the same cacti cultivar, Swamp Thing, pushing out some new pups. You see this is a slab graft. And this one's pretty hardy. You can see it's growing really pretty. Love this one. And we got some variegation next to it over here. Too cool. Son of Ron, and Paula, and some cereus monstrose, which is most definitely not trichocereus. This puts out a huge edible fruit. I love its deep blue coloration. And I love the smell of the fruit. The taste is really good too. This is definitely, I would say, hands down, my favorite cactus fruit to eat is off of the cereus monstrose. They get huge, they're super fragrant, and just really tasty. Better not walk back the roots through here. Here's Kawia, super smooth Kawia. And Trichocereus Phylogonius sitting next to a Trichocereus brevilospinosus. And so let's talk about the spines. The rib count on PC. So some people may say, oh, this cactus has to be this style because it has this many ribs. But that's not true at all. So we can see this has 6 ribs. This has 7 ribs. And behind it over here is 8 ribs. So PC can really have any amount or number of ribs. And a lot of scops love to put out those 4 ribs, which is super cool. They just have that squared out cactus. Here's another swamp thing right there. Oh, I love those spines. And the symmetry in that is totally boxed out. What a cool one. And here's a little secret one I'm working on. I'm excited for this. I'll peek down to show you what I got here. It's a secret hiding one that I've noticed is this, Paula is getting variegation along its tip there. Yes. So I'm going to graft this and isolate this and get that variegated streak to put out some pups and have some variegated Paula. That'll be really exciting. And there's the grafted TBM. Now TBM grows great on its own rootstock. There's really no reason to graft it, except if you have a very, very small pup and you graft it, it will push out huge, big chunks. So over here we've got some very small little pups that have, or small original grafted pieces that have just pumped and produced these huge segments. And if I was to have rooted that, it would have been tiny in comparison. So the small section, if I had rooted this original section, it would have put out pups even smaller than it. Whereas this has put out pups way larger, way bigger. And this is sitting on a PC. You can see it's really just a gorgeous piece. And it does have those notches. It does have the kind of ladder or sawtooth profile. It's got these vivid yellow new spines. And down, once we get a little further here, these aren't going to release easily. These are not going to come off easily. I know we did see one up here at the tip come off kind of easily. That's a really new, fresh growth piece. We'll look at, I have a couple old growth pieces over here. So here's some old growth PC. And we can see these spines are on here strong. They've got that ladder shape. And the spines are a little bit longer. Sometimes people see something like this and they're like, it can't be PC. It's got to be something different. It's got that white hair, but this is 100% totally PC. And here's a good comparison of the PC growing over here next to some other cacti. Ooh, even better. Look, we've got PC growing next to some other different cacti and like barely any spines, no ridges on here, no staircase. If anything, these are like a little bit upside down looking in comparison. Well, I hope this has been helpful. Feel free to drop anything in the comments. Even say, what's up, Dave? I'd be stoked. And if this is a new video, you can hit hype. If you enjoyed it and you learned something, swipe the thing that says like to the side. And there's a thing that says hype. And you can hype this new video so that other people watch it. Here's a cool seed-grown baddie. And I'll leave you guys with this super cool tip that I do over here. I've got these fresh grafts that I made. And you can see these are all grafted onto PC. And underneath here, I've got a cup set on top. And that cup is for shade, so that this slab doesn't get sunburnt. and I've painted some sulfur on there just to make sure there's no issues or problems. All right, cheers guys. Hope everyone has a rad day, and check out my profile, like and subscribe if you want to see some other neat videos on how to make some cacti fertilizer, or how you can graft your own cacti like these ones here, El Serpiente. Love that El Serpiente. Look at that weirdness. And I got an online store, so these are available on the online store. All right, cheers.